tap that to my heart. Won't you tap that so I can start? Yeah, tap that.
Greetings, Love Posse. Before we get into today's message, let's take 3 deep breaths. Please follow my guidance. On the 3rd breath, we're going to hold, inhale for a count of 5, and then exhale. Remember, when you exhale, you can breathe through the nose or through the mouth, whatever feels best for you. Okay, let's begin. Inhaling, exhaling. Inhaling again, exhaling. Inhaling, exhaling. Okay. Feel, love that shift in energy. It gets me going. It just, oh boy. Oh, love it. Just letting go, releasing, that heavy energy. So today's message, Love Posse, you can't handle the truth, but I'm going to tell you anyway. I have written some notes because Spirit has given me quite a bit to share. And I want to make sure I follow my guidance. You can't handle the truth, but I'm going to tell you anyway. Anyone with a little bit of awareness can sense that something extraordinary, dramatic, meaningful, important is happening on the planet, happening in this simulation, this waking dream, and it can't be stopped. Many people are going to be left behind. They're going to be left behind because they have chosen the nightmare. They are attached to the nightmare. They don't have the courage, the strength, the will to change and evolve. They've chosen not to change and evolve. Many of these people are incapable and don't have the ability to change and evolve. So they will be left behind. Remember, or not even remember, here's an example. Best example I thought of to share with you. If you've seen any Hollywood movie where there are cave people, cave men and women, and they're living in caves and they're carrying those, sticks or whatever. They can barely speak English. They don't know words. They're grunting. They don't even know how to make fire yet. Or they do. They're just now learning how to make fire. Okay. And humans evolved just an inch beyond that. We are living consciously in modern caveman era. And it's time to evolve. But some people are stuck in that caveman era. That caveman era in modern time looks like racism, fascism, sexism, speciesism, all these illusions, chasing money, all these things. I'm better than you, I'm better than another living being. These are all examples of that caveman consciousness that we are now in the midst of moving beyond. And those who are going to get left behind, maybe your parents, maybe your siblings, your friends, your coworkers, people that you love. And there's nothing you can do about it. There's absolutely nothing you can do about it. That's because each person, I'm thinking, because part of consciousness is understanding, being at a level where you understand that even though I'm saying person, we are not a person. We're not human. We are light and energy and frequency. But that's another conversation. But we must understand that many of our loved ones will be left behind, and we can't help them because it's an individual choice. It's all about frequency. It's been all about frequency, but now frequency is at the forefront. Our frequency, where we vibrate. And the universe only speaks, only communicates in the language of frequency. And if someone doesn't know that language, want to know it, don't have the ability, the will, the courage, the strength, that within them to learn the language and know it, then they will be left behind in the nightmare that is those who have chosen to evolve will no longer be in the nightmare. We will move on because we've chosen peace and love. We've chosen to move beyond the modern day caveman era. So the challenge for everyone is, will we, those of us who made the choice, who have chosen to evolve, how will we cope, deal with, witness our loved ones who have chosen to remain in the nightmare, who have chosen to be left behind? My suggestion, because I'm already doing this, I've already seen, I'm seeing, I'm sensing, I understand the assignment that I must go on. I've chosen to evolve, and there are members of my family who haven't. and I've always known this, but I can see it even more now. They are hammering down onto their false beliefs and illusions, not wanting to change and transform, right? So many people not wanting to change and transform, and thus complicit in their own suffering. So I have learned to just witness and hold space and understand that this is their choice. I've made mine, and this is their choice. I have no guilt about my choice. This is a dream. This is a simulation. We're all light and spirit and frequency. We will see each other again. I have an understanding that is beyond the five senses. And I offer that to you as a suggestion of how to cope. If you have chosen, if you're the one in your family, in your group of friends, if you have chosen to evolve. The other thing that I must share with you, you are the only one who can save yourself. Because each individual has made a choice. Only that individual can save him or herself. Only that individual can choose to evolve, to change and transform, and to move forward. And this leads me to something. That caveman era, that we are just maybe an inch ahead of. And in that time, man has grown or evolved in terms of intellect, the mind, focusing on the mental aspects of our beingness, or the mental aspect of our beingness. And a group of clever and elite white men created with thought God, the God of, in the religious texts that people bow down to, get on their knees and pray to, and ask for all sorts of things to destroy other people. Are you getting this? Are you understanding? There is no God who will save humanity, who will save you. That God was mind created. That God was created from the imagination of clever, elite white men who wanted dominance, power, and control. And they created these books that people believe to be the truth without investigation, without critical thinking. So that man-made God, that mind-created God, does not exist And that's why so many people's prayers go unanswered. That's why so much darkness exists. And people cry out, why, God, why? Because that God doesn't exist. That God was created from thought, from disturbed thought, from a disturbed psyche. Because only a disturbed God would allow all the murders and rapes and atrocities on the planet. Because that God was created in the image of those clever, elite white men. That's why that God allows all these atrocities. And that's why that God is not going to save anyone. That God doesn't exist. If you're feeling uncomfortable right now about what I have stated, go within. If you're watching this video, you are ready to hear that. Here's the other thing. Because it's all about frequency, there is, if you want to use the word God, but not the God from those books, not that make-believe God, that God of wrath doesn't exist. It exists, came from the mind, exists in the mind, exists in the imagination, because it came from the imagination of human beings. As we evolve, if you're on that path of evolution, you understand every single thing I have said, and you know it to be true. But frequency, let's talk about frequency. There is a higher frequency. There is a frequency that some people call a God frequency. That frequency is within all of us. But you have to choose to develop that frequency. You have to choose to change and transform. And it takes so much work and time and effort. And many people do not want to take the time, the effort to change and transform and develop and cultivate that God frequency, that higher frequency, higher consciousness. So there is something higher, greater, more expansive. And we are individuated expressions of that expansiveness, of that vibration. And you know when you reach that vibration, I know when I'm in that vibration, that frequency, when I levitated, I was at that frequency, in that frequency. When I become invisible, I'm in that frequency. When I can sense things are going to happen and they do, I'm in that frequency. It's within all of us, but you have to choose it. You have to choose it. It's an individual choice. Okay, let's talk politics. Don't think for one moment that the Democrats can save you. Politics, the political system, is a system of darkness. I'll say it again. Politics, political system is a system of darkness. Many of you know I'm a licensed attorney. You can look at the Democrats and the Republicans as good cop, bad cop. Republicans, bad cop, playing a role of bad cop. Democrats playing the role of good cop. They're both cops. But they have chosen a role. Why? To get you to behave in a certain way, to have control and dominion over the masses. So in the Democrats in their good cop role, they're still not going to save you because they're still a cop. They're still an agent of a dark system. There are only a handful of those politicians who identify as Democrats that are feeding the light. In order to be in politics, you have to be at such a low level of unconsciousness because that system feeds off of the suffering of people. That system requires that people are controlled, that people are kept at certain levels, that people have to rely on you to govern them, to feed them and clothe them, to protect them. That is a low vibration. To want to be the Lord and Master of the masses. Because again, we are individuated expressions of the highest consciousness, the Creator, the highest frequency, the God frequency. We don't need to be governed. We can create our own destiny. With our consciousness, we create our own reality. We are magicians. Do you understand? That's a different, higher level of consciousness. When you understand you are free, that no other human being is your master. But both the Dems and the Republicans want to be your master, and most people have been complicit in allowing themselves to be the slaves of these politicians, of the political system. And again, it's a system of darkness. So the Dems are not going to help you. Those that are in that system, the handful of Dems in that system that are feeding the light, that are actually agents of the light, they're doing their work. You know who they are. I've been told not to name anyone. But you know who they are. You can ask. I asked. Which politicians are feeding the light? Which politicians are feeding the dark? You can ask. One last thing about politics in the political system. No evolved and highly conscious being would ever intentionally get involved in the political system. Again, it's a system of darkness. It's a system of deceit. Our country and these politicians, and both Dems and Republicans, know that our country, in order to maintain our freedom and so-called democracy, which is an illusion, but again, that's not on what Spirit wants me to share, but knows that our country and the leaders that have been elected have to do some gnarly, dark things for the United States to maintain its status in the world. Do you understand that? Our country has to murder people, innocent people. Our country has to use terrorists to do our bidding in order for our country to maintain its status in the world. Your attention, yes, yours. So many people have grabbed your attention, and they are focused on nonsense and bullshit. That's because if you are not paying attention to what's truly important, your soul evolving, moving beyond the modern caveman, low consciousness, then you are for them. You are for the keeper. Have any of you ever watched the movie, The Legend of the Seeker? So many people are for the keeper and not the creator. Are you for the keeper? There are people out there, agents of the dark, and they have grabbed your attention because they know so many people are overwhelmed and confused and don't know what to do. And this is the opportune time to grab a hold to your focus. And that focus is on bullshit. Distractions everywhere. We're being inundated with distractions. Again, to keep you focused on bullshit rather than evolving, rather than your soul, rather than what's meaningful and important. Because these people are agents of the dark. They're feeding the dark within themselves. We have both light and dark. You become which one you feed. And so many right now, at the end of this dismantling, the end of the dark ages. It's the end. There's a splitting, right? There's a split that's happening. 3D, 5D, if that's what you want to call it. There's a split. Those who choose to evolve and those who choose not to evolve. And so you have to pay attention to who's distracting you, who's assisting you with your elevation, with raising your frequency, who's assisting you with evolving, who's assisting you with moving towards the Creator, and who's assisting you with moving towards the Keeper, keeping you in the dark, keeping you confused, keeping you overwhelmed, keeping you small and a victim. And many of those who are feeding the dark, they come in all shapes and forms and avatars. They may look like you, they may sound like you, walk and talk like you, but they're not. They're politicians, they're doctors, they're teachers, they're lawyers, they're ministers, they're spiritual teachers and gurus and astrologers. Yes, yes. They are, many of them are deceptive and clever, making you believe that they are helping you. But they have other agendas. Many of these people are also using their gifts, their psychic gifts, their gifts of sorcery and magic to lure you in, to feed them, because they're agents of the dark. I'll give you an example. I was on YouTube a couple of days ago and I saw this one video caught my attention. It was an astrologer and she was beautiful, and I looked and I'm like, oh, she's beautiful. Just her appearance caught my attention. And I heard, no, that spirit telling me, no, don't watch her video. She's an agent of the dark. And I paused and I just closed my eyes and I just sensed. When I just sensed and went in, I could feel her energy. Her energy was dark. And I could feel, she's a sorceress. And she's using her dark magic to lure people to her channel. You have to be able to sense this. You have to understand that the dark, not only the dark within, the dark collectively wants you for the keeper, not the creator. And it's pulling out all stops to lure you in. I have another example. I was watching this musician and she was singing. And I got this hit and I'm like, Spirit, I'm feeling something. So I got quiet and I really looked at her and I said, oh, she's a fairy. And her fairy energy, I could feel it, I could sense it because I'm a fairy. She sounded like a fairy. I said, she's using her fairy magic, her fairy playfulness to grow her business, to attract people to her music. It's happening all over. People are using their dark magic, their gifts, intentionally, some unintentionally, to woo you, to keep you numb, to keep you focused on bullshit, to keep you distracted so that you will not develop spiritually so that you will choose the keeper. Be for the keeper. Think about it. Conscious people don't consume erratically. Conscious people can't be controlled. Conscious people don't need to be governed. Conscious people don't vote for unconscious leaders. So the majority of the people have to remain unconscious. If you don't want to be left behind, you must cultivate and develop your consciousness. You must raise your frequency. And again, understand that many will be left behind, and you can have compassion for them. You can hold space for them, but you can't bring them along. It's not your choice, it's theirs. And you can't stay behind because you feel sad or bad for them, or you are afraid to move into the unknown without them. You can. It's your choice. One more thing I want to say about politics and the Dems. The Dems in particular. Because the Republican archetype is clear, right? The bad cop is playing the bad cop, okay? The Oscar award-winning performance from the Republicans, bad cop. But the good cop, you have to pay attention, right? Because the good cop throws you some crumbs. The good cop gives the impression, the illusion that they're for you, right? Again, discernment is extremely important if you wish to survive what's happening on the planet. I know that the House, that the Senate, that the executive branch, that the judicial branch are all Republican dominated. I get that. But there's nothing to lose. Why are not more Democrats doing something, speaking out? Why are they holding back? Think about it. I've told you, the political system is a system of the dark that feeds the dark. The Dems want this experience, want us to have this experience of trauma, being thrown off our center. Why would they want that? Because they want power. The longer this goes on, the longer people experience these actions that keep them in fear and confusion and overwhelm, what happens? You're going to go to something outside of yourself. See, the Dems want this trauma that people are experiencing to be imprinted on people's psyche. Why? When they get in power, they want to be in power for a long time. Because the children now who understand what's going on, who are experiencing the trauma in their lived experiences, but also experiencing the trauma through their parents and their grandparents and their friends and their classmates, they will not forget. They will not forget. And the Dems are betting on that people will not forget. And when the Dems have a chance to come in power, they will, and they will be in power to the last generation who's experiencing this trauma dies off. So the Dems are holding back because in their delusional mind, they only see power. And they want to be in power. Right? That's why you have those 80 and 90-year-olds still there. They don't want to give up their power. But they come in the form. They are so deceitful, making you believe that they are the good cop. Then you have these influencers who have chosen to feed the dark, and they lack the consciousness. They're not at the frequency to see that the Dems are only playing the role of the good cop. And the good cop gives the inmate, the defendant, the water, while the bad cop, no, don't give him any water. The good cop, goes up there and says, are you hungry? I'll give you some food if you just give me this. Do you understand, Love Posse? You must save yourself. In conclusion, it's clear that a shift is happening. Those who choose to evolve will be able to navigate the shift. Those who choose not to evolve will be left behind in the nightmare, in samsara. Each person, each one of us gets to decide which way we want to go, which path we want to take. There's no shame, there's no guilt. You make the choice and you live with it. No one knows anything. This time, this is uncharted territory. But what we do know is there's a shift, and it's happening in real time. Now you have to make a choice, because all that which you knew is crumbling and falling apart. It's your choice. You choose to evolve, you survive. You choose not to evolve, you don't. And that may look like so many things, doesn't necessarily mean you drop the body, go on to the spirit world. It can mean you stay in samsara. You stay in the nightmare. Because the shift is happening and it can't be stopped. The best thing you can do, Love Posse, is to choose to evolve. And each individual must choose for him or herself. You must choose to evolve. You must choose to raise your frequency. And once you choose, then take action. It's like knowledge. We've all heard that knowledge is power. Actually, the application of knowledge is power. So, just choosing to evolve and raising your frequency is one step, but consciousness involves taking action, cultivating and developing your consciousness. Thank you for your time, Love Posse. Peace and love to and for all sentient beings.